Hey, good afternoon, Vinnie. Great to see you. Happy to spend some time here with you this afternoon, and wanted to take the time to talk a little bit about what's going on in the chemical industry. And we're really proud of the leadership we have in chemicals. And Vinnie, I think I mentioned this to you before, but today 99 of the top 100 chemical companies run SAP. And of course, SAP last year celebrated our 50th anniversary, and our first customer was indeed a chemical client. So, in a sense, chemicals is in SAP's DNA. And as technology has evolved, as our customers have evolved, we've evolved with the industry, right? And I think that's built on really solve or addressing mission critical business processes, right? And building mutual trust with the industry, and then continuing to innovate, right? And I to kind of set the stage a little bit, I like to think of
Matt,
that
first,
ahead.
first of all, Matt, it's great to have you. And we spent some time, and you have been in the chemical industry for a long time. You're a young man, but you've been there a long time. And you're also a little bit of a historian. I remember you telling me how DuPont had evolved every few years in different products. So the industry is very dynamic. I'm looking forward to this presentation because your SAP strands, but also fascinating innovations that are coming out of the chemical industry.
Exactly, Vinny. And I think we can maybe then zero in a little bit on what's the current state of affairs and what's going on. And you mentioned my experience at DuPont, and really I think it's you just see this industry continuing to evolve. And if you look at the core mission of this industry, right, to make the world safer and healthier and more sustainable, this industry is essential to modern day life, and virtually every manufactured product is from the business of chemistry. So one of the reasons why we're so passionate about it, and we're so excited about the opportunity, and the fact that this industry is part of the fabric, right, of our everyday lives, and will continue to be a critical player, as the world evolves. So let's kind of zero in then on what's going on in the world. And this is something that we've all reflected on the last few years, and it seems like there's a convergence of so many topics that are really accelerating some momentum in the industry, particularly when you look at adopting digital and leveraging data, and really to help move companies forward. And you look at some of these chemical companies that have been around for 100+ years, right? And they're asking themselves, all right, what is it going to take to be relevant for the next 100, right? The stakes are really high, and you have the convergence of all these things, of course, going back to the COVID pandemic, right? And then more recently, the war in Ukraine, and of course the increased focus on actually driving sustainability. And now we see the investments behind that. Certainly, when you look at the regulatory pressure that's going on, and that the industry sees and feels, I mean, this will continue to shape the industry, whether it's things like the Superfund excise tax or CBAM or any other number of regulations, really shape the industry. I've already alluded to the war, and certainly the energy crisis, the fluctuation of commodity prices, really a lever that this industry will need to continue to monitor and to react from, and to make sure they're positioned for future growth. And then the fact that this industry is so integrated with virtually every manufacturing value chain, right? It experiences volatility, be it upstream, be it downstream, right? And companies are now asking themselves, right, how do we become more resilient, right? How do we enable ultimately profitability and growth, but how do we do so in a world of disruption, right? And of course that really opens the door for a conversation around how technology is then a key enabler, right, of these business strategies faced with all these many variables that are hitting the industry. And the conversations that I have with customers around the world, and you look at a very high level, these are three topics that are top of mind. And it's the first one being business transformation, and how do companies really drive new growth and embed new business models, and supply chain resilience. We just talked about this. I think traditionally or historically, companies have really operated with siloed pockets of data, and ultimately don't have transparency across their entire supply chain. Supply chain resilience is about being able to balance decision trade-offs, right? Data is huge. And then, of course, goes without saying that the need to drive sustainability, and of course, having the data, right, to measure that, and then to really embed that across the business and the corresponding business processes. And there's, of course, at a high level, Vinnie, these are some of the key topics. When you peel the onion a little bit, the chemical industry, particularly as it relates to SAP, and its investment in SAP, industry leaders are asking themselves, all right, how do we now, in a cloud world, get the standard, right? We have years, if not decades, of customization. How do we really get the standard, become more agile, and put ourselves in a position to consume new innovations faster, right? Leaders are asking about talent, right? And how do we ensure we have the right competencies moving forward? They're looking at cybersecurity, looking at data privacy, compliance, innovation. I mean, the scope of responsibility, particularly for IT and digital leaders, is huge, and you really see how it impacts then the entire business. So I wanted now to kind of break down furthermore some of these priorities in the chemical industry, and then how how we see this evolution. And Vinnie will try to give you some examples around the way to kind of make it as tangible as possible.
That'd be great. Thank you.
So the first priority we look at is about increasing operational efficiency, and or maybe leaders put it as operational excellence. And I think when you look at the interconnectedness of business processes, say in manufacturing and logistics and supply chain, all of these elements are interconnected, right? So the ability to increase operational efficiency is fundamentally about driving integrated operations, right? So where one impact to the business, where that impact is understood, whether it's down process or has other impact, right? It's understanding the impacts of those shocks to the system. And certainly Industry 4.0 is another theme kind of here to really drive operational efficiency, right? How do we break down those silos of data? How do we actually leverage that data to become more reliable, to increase our throughput, to become safer, right? To become more agile. So certainly increasing operational efficiency is top of mind. And when you look at the opportunity, I think there's a huge bucket, say, of productivity improvement here. Not always easy to execute, but the ability to bring the analytical world and the transactional world together, right, where we actually are driving decision making, understanding that the impact across these processes, this is a key priority. Moving forward, and I think we can, Vinnie, we can reflect. I made sure I had the book here to reflect on some of the points. When we talk about collaborating through business networks, and I think I mentioned earlier, when you talk about driving supply chain resilience, a key element to that is really collaborating then across the value chain, right? And when you look at some of these other mega trends, be it circular economy, right, that's fundamentally about operating as a network. And I think the industry realizes that, for us to get to where we want to be, really looking at that core mission, right? How do we make the world healthier, safer, more sustainable, right? We need to operate across a value chain, right? And how do we prepare for disruption, right? It's about It's about understanding the impact, again, across the value chain. And I know you've had conversations with Hagen and the automotive team. Catena X is a great example of what this collaboration could look like, right? What this data sharing could look like. And guess who's an important player of the automotive value chain, right? The chemical industry. As mentioned, virtually every other value chain. So let's look here at a few comments, from Evonik, and you got a chance. We in this book got a chance to speak with Thomas Meinl. You realistically cannot afford to build one-to-one connections with each supplier. SAP Ariba has allowed us to replace the one-to-one relationships with a trading platform. We connect much faster with suppliers. We also have more transparency, right? So this is the power of collaborating through a business network. And we had our international conference, which we did with Mill Product and Mining in September last year. And this was a key theme. Business leaders are asking, how can we leverage the power of data, right? And how can we leverage the power of a network to really drive new value, right? That when you simply look within the walls of manufacturing, you're limited, right? Now we look beyond that. What new value can we achieve?
Yeah, you mentioned the Catena X auto network, and the two supplier industries that were really prominent were obviously because of chips and semiconductors last year, or a couple of years, but chemicals, right? Coatings, the pigments, the internal plastics and everything. Chemicals is a huge portion of the supply chain.
Let's move on to the next
Yep.
the next priority here. So, when you look at what's going on in the market, there is really active portfolio adjustments, and these companies, as they looking to drive organic growth, where can they drive inorganic growth? Where can they maybe realign some of their core competencies? Where maybe they can bring on new sustainable businesses, right? So the merger, acquisition, divestiture activity is really a key element of the industry. It has been, and I expect it will continue to be. Maybe even some pent up demand here from the last couple of years. And so ultimately to be able to adjust strategy and portfolio dynamically is a key priority in the industry. And you look at many companies, their digital strategy is really to not only drive those synergies, but also to facilitate future M&A activity, right? And really make sure that the digital backbone exists to be able to drive this kind of agility as it relates to the portfolio. So this is pretty exciting. I think when you look at the changes in the industry, and it's incredible, right, to kind of see this activity. What's the next big move, right? What's the next big change? And right, and then it comes down to how fast can we really assimilate? How fast can we execute, right, and drive increased revenue, margins, growth, right, from that transaction.
Right, when you talk about growth, new markets, I mean, you introduced us to Eastman, and in the book we profile the molecular recycling. I mean, that's a brand new market, right? So a lot of those opportunities, I'm sure different companies are looking at.
Exactly, and I think that we can't underestimate the innovation. Even this industry that's been around for so long, while, like you said, new business models like molecular recycling are now emerging. We see a clear connection with our customers adopting an SAP strategy, moving to S/4HANA, and that being a key enabler of driving this strategic agility. All right, moving on. The other piece is around selling business outcomes instead of just products. And this is, maybe I'll start the conversation looking a little more philosophically at it. But I think when you look at the chemical industry, where margins are pretty tight, right? It's about looking at the world not just from a B2B standpoint, but really from a B to B to C standpoint, and understanding how customers are benefiting from the products that this industry is selling, right? What results are the customers giving? So having that focus on customer centricity, I think, is opening up the door for chemical companies to create new customer experiences, right? And in some cases, right, this even means selling services, right? And I was trying to find the piece that Eastman mentioned on, and I can't seem to find it at the moment.
Matt, it was in the everything as a service theme in the book. And while that mostly focused on, the big Rolls-Royce engines and aviation and industrial markets, it's pretty nice to see chemicals and other industries also moving to that model.
Okay, I found it. I'm glad you said that. I found it here. So here's from Eastman. Our prime business is selling film, but we are also selling our software and the intellectual property of the patterns as a service on a subscription basis. We are up to 3,000 customers in North America, and we're expanding globally, right? So, pretty exciting to see the industry really, looking holistically at the customer, right? And how the customers are experiencing their products. I think that's opening the door to new revenue streams, and certainly new value, right? That or new innovation that can be uncovered when we have that kind of collaboration. All right. So now that we've kind of laid the land of, at least maybe we scratched the surface, Vinnie, of kind of some of the key priorities in the industry. We can certainly talk about this all day. Now let's kind of switch gears a little bit and look at it from a perspective of SAP, right? And some of the capabilities that we're investing in to really drive these priorities and help move these companies forward. So looking specifically at chemicals, we've identified those core capabilities in our value map, and the value map is broken down into 4 pillars. Okay, customer engagement and co-innovation, planning and sourcing, integrated operations management, and delivery and service. And so you can see, Vinnie, as our capabilities are really stretching end to end, right? R&D all the way through fulfillment, and of course built on what we call core industry priorities, things like HR and finance and data and analytics. So when you look at these 4 then pillars, what are the key outcomes then we want to enable in the industry, right? And that's how we've structured our value map. What are those key outcomes? What are those key business capabilities, which then map to a corresponding application, right? And so just we can kind of reflect a little bit on each of these 4 pillars. And the first is around customer engagement and co-innovation. So what are chemical companies looking to achieve, right? They're looking to accelerate time to market for new products, optimizing R&D cost, right? Improving brand recognition. So for example, Dole, they're running a recipe development application. I believe they're making around 60,000 new recipes a year. One common platform then to drive product development. We've seen a number of customers, again, still looking at this first pillar, a number of customers adopting commerce strategies, right? I mean, a decade ago, and I remember when I was in the industry, I was at that point, customer portals were new. Maybe I had one of the other supplier that are running them. This is now becoming the norm. I mean, Vinnie, could you have expected that chemical companies would kind of embrace an Amazon mentality, right? Maybe a decade ago, we wouldn't have, but that's the reality to drive that omni-channel presence and also to create that experience. Planning and sourcing is is somewhat self-explanatory, right? But it's about reducing planning and procurement cost, or driving inventory productivity, reducing revenue loss due to stockouts. And there's companies like Syngenta and Ineos that have invested in solutions. One solution is called integrated business planning, and they've improved their forecast accuracy, right? So, that's one example. When you look at all the volatility in the world, a good place to start is leveraging data science and statistical algorithms to better understand the market, right? To better in that case, better improve forecast accuracy. When we look at integrated operations management, we kind of already talked on this around the need to drive operational efficiency. And that's about reducing plant downtimes, or increasing availability, or increasing quality, right? Reducing energy consumption, reducing maintenance costs, right? Even driving core environmental health and safety, right, at the unit. This is fundamental. And so there's companies like Albus Plastics, and they actually created a predictive quality model using SAP's business technology platform, right? Or there's a company, Indorama, and they've actually invested in SAP's intelligent asset management suite, bringing together all their asset and equipment data on a single registry, which has enabled them to do things like risk-based inspections. And then the last pillar there, is delivery and service, right? And I have a background in supply chain, so I'm somewhat biased, but when you look at delivery and service, to me, this is ultimately about not just fulfilling orders, but fulfilling the customer experience, right? This is delivering on what we promise to our customers, right? So it's about increasing on-time delivery and customer service, right? It's about driving compliance across the entire product life cycle, right? And reducing logistics costs along the way. And companies like Olin, maybe you're familiar with Olin, and they're actually running S/4HANA product compliance, which is, again, leveraging next generation ERP to ensure top levels of product stewardship, right? So this is how we see the world, Vinnie, looking at this value map, and how we break down then the capabilities, right, which are then, you can see there in our value map, and then also looking at our roadmap, where else are we continuing to invest to create value for the industry? So, for example, one element that we're looking at closely is tank planning. So how can we continue to bring in or to expand our tank planning capabilities? And of course, there's a number of items there. And so that's how we start the conversation, right? Understanding how the industry is evolving, what are those key business outcomes, and then what capabilities do we need to enable it? But of course, this isn't the end of the story. Ultimately, it's about how do we bring these capabilities together in an end-to-end process, right? Vinnie, it's not about features and functions. It's about enabling mission-critical business processes, bringing the analytical and the transactional world together. This is the power. This is the power of SAP, right? And this is when you look at this diagram, it's a reflection of how we're aligning our capabilities with the business process, with the key personas, and understanding the challenges that these individuals in their business experience every day.
So, Matt, in the transportation manager, that would include trucks and rail cars, but also pipelines and all? Is it a broad?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you look at, again, I mean, look at all the verticals SAP supports, right? That's another story in itself, right? Whether you're a utility company or an oil and gas, or you're downstream in chemicals, right? It's about bringing all these capabilities together to then drive an end-to-end process for all the verticals we support.
Yeah.
And the other thing, and so this is a nice diagram as we kind of went from the business capabilities and seeing some of these applications, Vinnie, how they then fit on an end-to-end process, right? Whether it's integrated recipe development, or it's supplier collaboration, or asset performance management, or available to promise, or freight collaboration, or pricing. So again, this is
Matt, you know how in industries you go in and they go, this is too big an elephant. Are you seeing certain areas which are hot, where you're getting a lot more requests, or is it spread across this chart?
Yeah, it's a fair question, right? And this is, I think, when you look at this, there's a level of modularity, right, where many of these challenges can be tackled at different points, right? And so we can kind of start this journey at different points. And one client may want to focus on procure to pay, right, and make some of their investments there around supplier collaboration. Another client may then look at asset performance management, where they see the most opportunity. So I think we see customers starting this journey at different points to build off it. So maybe just to kind of close that loop, customers can start this journey wherever they see the most opportunity, and we can keep building on that.
Okay.
Maybe one more thing to call out from this slide, which is pretty exciting. And Vinnie, you probably heard this term industry cloud, and it's there kind of small in the bottom left. And this is really where we're investing in these industry rich cloud capabilities, some of which are developed by SAP, others are developed by our partner ecosystem, right? And so we've really brought in our partner ecosystem as a key element of our portfolio to really expand these capabilities, again, in an integrated end-to-end process, driving industry relevant outcomes. Say, for example, pricing, right? Pricing's a pretty important topic in the world right now, particularly with all this disruption, the change of commodity prices. And we work with a vendor called PriceFX. I mentioned earlier risk-based inspection. This is also a partner we're working with that are embedding their capabilities in our asset performance management solution. Also mentioned, if I jump back here to the book, Vinnie, if I'm looking at the Evonik story, if I can find it, that Thomas mentioned EcoVadis, right? We share sustainability with EcoVadis, a neutral third company. So we're partnering with EcoVadis to then embed sustainability ratings in our procurement software, right? So this is pretty exciting how we're really expanding our reach with the partner ecosystem.
Oh yeah, your SAP IO Cloud Foundry startups. That's a pretty impressive group of startups right there.
So Vinnie, I wanted to wrap up, and before we do, kind of as maybe a testament to our customers, I do have a video we made in partnership with Solvay, really in celebration of our 50th anniversary. So I think it's a nice send off, and also reflects well the innovation of this industry, right? And really the importance that this industry will play, as the world evolves. But before I kind of roll that short video, it's only a minute and a half. What else can we hit, Vinnie?
No, this is you've covered a lot of ground. I mean, you didn't have them on slides, but you mentioned probably 15 chemical company names. So yeah, it's a testament to your power in chemicals. And by the way, Solvay, the CEO is really impressive. So I'm looking forward to this.
Awesome. Let's run it here. forward to, Vinny. A lot to look forward to, right? And for us as an industry team, right? I think that's really built on trust and partnership and being interlocked with this industry. That's what we're all about.
And you focus on all the good that's happening, all the innovations happening. So fantastic. Thank you so much.
Big thanks to you. Thanks for the opportunity to chat here. I look forward to catching up again.
Thank you.